In this episode, I'm going to be talking about which lenses work best for video. Hello, my name is Simon Cade, and this is DSLRguide. So yeah, today I'm basically going to just talk you through what a good set of lenses would be, what's good for your first lens, and kind of talk you through a little bit about lenses generally, which ones work best for video, and talking about, you know, price and all the other factors that come into which lens to get, because it's a pretty big question, and there's a very vast selection. So the first lens that I recommend you get, as many people tell you, is a standard zoom. So this is where if you have a crop sensor camera, the kit lens is a pretty good place to start out. But bear in mind it's at f4 to 5.6, which means that it's not great in low light. All my lenses are f2.8 all the way across the zoom, which is really great because the majority of the time I do shoot at 2.8, and to have that extra light is just really helpful. But obviously that does come at a cost. So my recommendations are, if you're pretty low on money, if you're getting a low-end camera like a 550D, 600D, then I would definitely recommend that you get the kit lens. If you're just starting out and you're looking into, you know, not sure whether you're going to continue in filmmaking or not. So yeah, the kit lens, you know, it has a nice zoom range from 18 to 55. That's pretty much perfect for a general walk-around lens. But in terms of sharpness, it's not great, and you do get the problem of it being f4 to 5.6. So obviously, out on a sunny day, it's going to work as good as many lenses, but if you're indoors, then you're going to have a little trouble with noise. Now, if you've got a full frame camera, then this is where something like 24 to 70 is the perfect zoom range, and the kind of two most popular ones are Canon's 24 to 70, which is really expensive, Canon's 24 to 105, which is great because it's IS, and it's not that expensive even though it's an L lens, but it is an f4, so it's not quite as bright as an f2.8. But my personal recommendation is the Tamron 24 to 70, because there's been many tests of it against the Canons, and it's almost as sharp as Canon. It's a really well built lens, and it has IS, which means you have the benefits of the Canon f4 with the low light of the 24 to 70. So it's 24 to 70 2.8 IS, which is basically that's pretty much the perfect walk around lens as far as I'm concerned. It has really great IS, and yeah, that's a great zoom range. So I think that would work great for if you have a crop sensor camera as well. So basically, if you're short on money, get the kit lens. If you have a bit more money, then I'd recommend you get the Tamron 17 to 50 2.8 VC, because that has the same zoom range as the kit lens, which is really great, but it allows you to have a constant 2.8 aperture. And while it may not be the sharpest lens, my copy certainly is very sharp, and you know, sharpness on a 600D or a crop sensor camera isn't so much of a big deal. You know, it's not going to be that noticeable. And to be honest, I think the most important things are that your ISO is lower. I'd rather have a lower ISO because my aperture was opened up than a not as sharp lens. I think that makes more of a difference. So I really like my Tamron 17 to 50. It works great, and it's perfect for the crop sensor, but do bear in mind that that's only a crop sensor camera. That's only a crop sensor lens. So if you're looking to upgrade to a 5D or something, then it won't work anymore. So once you've got a standard zoom, I would recommend that you get one kind of standard prime, because for me, prime lenses, I don't really get on that well with primes, but you know, it allows you to have a much faster aperture, and they're cheaper and sharper than zoom lenses, but obviously you don't have the versatility of zooming, which for me personally I find really important. If you're shooting events, then you really do need then you really do need a zoom lens. And the other thing is that, you know, if you're shooting a short film, it's great to be able to have a set of primes at 24, 35, 50, 85, and then that, you know, you can use, it'll be much sharper, it'll be much brighter, but that gets expensive, and you know, on a short film that's fine because you can swap out lenses all the time, but if you're shooting an event, then you really can't swap out lenses. So that's why I prefer to just go with a mid-range zoom. But I would recommend that you try out primes, especially if you've got the kit lens, and definitely try out the 50mm 1.8, so that you can kind of get a taste for what a bright, sharp lens is like. And then after that, I would suggest that you look into a telephoto lens, because for me, I really like the telephoto look, and I also think that, you know, if you're shooting events, telephoto lenses are really important because you often can't get right up the front. And while, you know, you could shoot a whole short film at 50mm, it's good to have that kind of diversity of zoom ranges, because that's what will make it look more cinematic. So for me, I really like the compressed look of a 70-200. You know, anything above 135 I think looks really great. So yeah, I personally really like telephoto lenses. If I had to choose between my 70-200 and an 11-16, I'd definitely go for the 70-200. It's a lens that I really get a lot of use out of. Now, the next question is which one to get. So again, you have three categories. You can get the 18-200 from Canon, which is a EFS lens, so it will only work on crop sensor cameras, but it does give you the zoom range, but again, it's f4 to 5.6, and it's not really a very high quality lens at all. So it's cheap, but it's not as bright, not going to work as well in low light, and the build quality and the sharpness, you know, it really isn't up to the par of the more expensive lenses. But again, if you're on a budget, then this may be something to consider. Now, the next one I would recommend, and is probably the best for value, is the Tamron 70-200 2.8 non-VC. So this is quite an old lens, but what I've heard about it is that the autofocus isn't very good, which for video is fine, but it's really sharp, and 2.8 obviously means it's nice and bright, and 70-200 is a great range, so it kind of has all the features that you need, even if the autofocus is pretty slow. It gives you everything that you want in a video lens at a far better price than the Canon L series ones. Now, I do have the 70-200 2.8 from Canon, which is kind of universally known as a really high quality, great lens, but the only reason why I have that is because of eBay. I got it second hand, managed to pick up a really good deal because it's slightly faulty. But if I wouldn't spend full price for the Canon. The only reason why I got it was because I could actually manage to get it cheaper than the Tamron. So Tamron's about 450 quid, and the Canon is about 900. Now you can get the 70-200 f4, but again, it's a bit darker. If you're going to be shooting outside all the time, then that's fine. But for me, I really like to be able to shoot at 2.8. And then obviously you can get a 70-200 IS, but then they kind of start getting expensive. Both Canon and Tamron have really great 70-200 f2.8 IS, and you know, while I'm sure they're great, to be honest, it's just not. I don't think it's worth the money. But for me, I would say having an aperture of 2.8 is probably one of the most important features. Sharpness doesn't matter so much for me. You know, people often slag off pixel peepers, saying, you know, does it really matter that much? Is your general audience really going to notice how sharp it is? But I think having aperture of 2.8 is probably the most important thing. And then you also want to bear in mind the focus throw. So my 70-200 has a really great focus throw, but my Tamron 17-50, which is a cheaper lens, it's less than 90 degrees, which makes it kind of tricky to get smooth focus pulls, and you find yourself doing really small movements. But you know, so if you have, that's where price just comes into it. Kit lens and Tamron 17-50 are quite similar, but you know, you get that 2.8, which is really good, I think. So for me, that makes it worth the extra money on top of the kit lens, but I haven't yet found it plausible to spend £600 on the 24-70 VC, but that would be my next upgrade path. So yeah, and then in terms of wide angle lenses, having the 17-50, 17 is plenty wide enough for me, and it'd be the same on the kit lens if 18mm is pretty much the same. For me, I don't personally like the look of wide angle. I try to avoid using it too much because, you know, in terms of faces, it makes everything look distorted, and I just generally don't think it looks that good. But, you know, if you're using Steadicam, if you're using a slider, then it really does help to use a wide angle lens to accentuate the detail, and every lens has its purpose. But for me, I feel like a wide angle lens would stay in my bag too much. But if you are doing real estate videos, then, you know, it's something that you may want to use to get everything in the shot. But yeah, so in summary, you have three kind of price brackets: either the kit lens and the Canon 18-200 gives you a nice zoom range, but you're gonna miss out on the wide aperture, or you go down the slightly more expensive route of the Tamron 17-50 VC and the Tamron 70-200 f2.8, which is quite an old lens, but it's pretty good still. And this is kind of like your mid-range, and then you have on the high end 24-70 VC and 70-200 Canon. The Canon I don't think has very good value, and the 24-70 is really great, and I think that's a better choice than the Canon 24-70 or the Canon 24-105. But the one thing to remember about lenses is that lenses are something really worth investing in. You know, when I was first looking into camera stuff, I was going to get a 50mm 1.8 and then a big £200 shoulder rig, and then I kind of realised actually lenses are more important than rigs. You know, rigs are cool, they're very exciting, and they you know, they look cool, but actually lenses are really important. So, you know, it's all kind of to scale of what your budget is. So while I wouldn't say, you know, go out and spend £900 on lenses, if you're serious about filmmaking, you're gonna spend, you know, £2,000 on stuff, you need a big portion of that needs to be on your lenses, because it's really important.